Welcome to the Patriot Perspective. My name is Gregory Lykov, and I'm currently joined here with my co-host Overdar.
Hello, everybody. Today it is the 13th of September. We're here on a solemn occasion, but it is extremely necessary. We are recording a very important video today.
Yeah, and as I'm sure our viewers know, we lost a legend and a true warrior this week, Charlie Kirk. And Ofer, I don't know if you can just give me your reaction. I mean, we were filming when this actually happened, so it was a real shocker. But what is your reaction after 3 days of everything we saw online and everything the left has been saying about Charlie Kirk? What is your reaction to that?
My reaction is just complete contempt for a large swath of individuals who are just completely dissociated from any sort of moral clarity or connection to humanity, to their fellow man, to somebody who was a father and a husband with two young children.
Yeah.
They completely dissociated from that fact and simply ostracized that individual and are celebrating his death. And I just can't conceptualize myself doing the same for anybody else on the opposing side. I
Yeah.
would just feel this sort of in my stomach, a churning of my stomach, regardless of who it is. But it appears that a massive segment of people on the left, including the shooter himself, but not just him, but millions of people that are celebrating, they have lost the ability to empathize for people on the other side. And that's a consequence of the fact that they've spent the past 10 years calling them Nazis, fascists, white supremacists, all these lies, all these slanders, they actually have an effect on people's psychology. So I was so disgusted when I saw that tweets celebrating his death got 700,000 likes. Like, what is going on with people? Like, it's just completely disgusting.
Yeah, and I even just a few hours ago wrote an article about how the left is politicizing his death. When you are talking about gun violence and making his death a reason that gun laws should be more strict, or saying that he got what he deserved, that's ridiculous. And the truth is that's what the left is doing. Even for the people who claim not to be politicizing his death, if you are using this as a way to gain the right to say that we should have stricter gun laws, then that is politicizing the death. That is my concern. And to be honest, we have seen time and time again that gun laws don't necessarily work in these cases. His death would have been inevitable whether these gun laws existed or not. And the reason I know that is because we can look at neighborhoods like Chicago, New York, LA, where gun laws are extremely strict, but the amount of homicides, the amount of gun violence related deaths are the highest in the nation. So saying that this is because of gun violence or gun law strictness is ridiculous, and that's what a lot on the left are saying. But Ofer, I wanted to also ask you about what we have seen all around the country. Just today, a big protest in London took place where
Yeah.
millions of people came out in support of Charlie Kirk, and also illegal immigration is obviously a big issue in the UK. But what were your thoughts when you saw these big gatherings of people in support of this guy?
Well, I thought the images were amazing. Seeing a lot of just working class, regular Englishmen and Britons from all stripes just going there, voicing their frustration about the political situation in the UK. You know, Keir Starmer as prime minister has done a horrible job, and immigration has just soared to new highs. He's not doing anything to combat it. So people are frustrated now.
Yeah.
Quality of life is decreasing, and it came at the same time as the murder of Charlie Kirk. And so Tommy Robinson, the guy who organized all of it, he did just an amazing job getting everybody together and harnessing the anger, I suppose, to keep on pushing forward. And it's not just in the United States, as we saw, it's also in the United Kingdom where we need this sort of political activism. And they need it even more now because they don't have a friendly leader in charge and a friendly government, and they won't for a couple of years up until they have the next parliamentary elections, unless, of course, the coalition that the UK has collapses beforehand. In either case, though, I was really, I suppose, happy to see that, we can continue going forward, continue pushing with a common cause and honor his legacy. And it's not just in the UK, there were so many vigils across the country on college campuses, and tens of thousands of people showed up. There's supposed to be, I believe, a rally in support of Charlie Kirk and his memory on September 21st, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
And there's going to be a full packed stadium full of attendance. And yeah, there's going to be actually something else that I noticed is that TPUSA chapters, they have received a lot of requests to open up new ones
Yeah.
on high school and college campuses. Approximately 18,000 requests, which is insane because previously there were about 19,000 or 9,000 chapters across the whole country. So double the amount have been requested within 3 days. So that's incredible, and it shows how so many people have been impacted by this, and in a positive way, to harness the energy to continue political activism.
Yeah, definitely. And this week I really spent most of my time making sure that people understand the true impact that Charlie Kirk made on children like me. And I appeared on several programs, including Fox News. I also had the opportunity to publish a piece in the Wall Street Journal about it. And really, my goal with that was to show that Charlie Kirk was a very genuine, wonderful, humble person. And that's why he was, in general, so loved by the Generation Z. Because even if you didn't agree with him, he had a goal of debating you. He didn't have a goal of attacking you, ruining your life, or anything. His goal was just simply to speak with you, and that's just very noble, in my opinion. But Ofer, from your stance, obviously Charlie Kirk made a big impact on your life too. So, what are your thoughts, like, when we have a leader like him get assassinated in front of a big crowd, and when that leader is someone who you hope to aspire to be eventually?
Yeah, it's extremely shocking, and everybody agrees to a certain level with that, regardless of political affiliation. Because Charlie Kirk, he felt like it felt like there was a parasocial relationship with him, even if you didn't meet him. I know you did, so it's even crazier for you. You actually had many positive interactions with him in person and online. But for everybody, he was a mainstay. You would scroll on your feed and you'd see him at some point, and you'd hear his best quips and his best debates. So he just became just a daily part of life for many people. And then seeing that taken away within a second, it's very difficult to conceptualize. So having that publicized to the entire world, having that video publicized of him being murdered like that, that as well, it just has sort of like a lasting scar in the psyche of all the people that have watched that.
Yeah.
So that's one component. And the fact that we lost such an amazing organizer, the best organizer of our generation by far, who was able to change the political landscape. You go back 10, 15 years ago, and all of the political forecasters like Carville and Karl Rove, they were all saying that the Republican Party was doomed going into the next generation because the younger people in colleges or even in high school were leaning left. They were liberal leaning in all the polls that were conducted at the time, in like the Great Recession period and onwards. And we reached a point around 2016, 17 when Charlie Kirk founded TPUSA and it continued growing, that he started turning that. He started turning the tables. He did the dirty work that nobody else was willing to do, and he talked to people where they were at. That's the most important. He went to their college campuses quite literally to talk to them where they were at, and then figuratively, in terms of the debate, he would always meet them at their ideology, at their respective viewpoints, and engage in a serious manner and always try to convince them. And he would never stop. He would sit there for hours and just continue doing so, on and on and on. And doing that on your feet and being able to do it consistently is something that people don't value enough, I believe, because we don't have enough experience, doing that
Yeah.
over a span of multiple years. But that was what he enjoyed. He enjoyed that, the process of dialectic discussions with people. And so losing that, it's going to be a massive blow to civic discourse, civic life in the United States. I don't think there's ever going to be a one for one replacement. But the good news is that even before he died, he made a massive impact on Gen Z and on our political affiliations in the 2024 election. And now, even more, his martyrdom, as people perceive it to be, is that the millions more people becoming politically engaged and wanting to, carry on his legacy, carry on his work. And, I count myself a part of that, and
Yeah.
you certainly do as well. That was the entire sort of theme of your interview on Fox.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just show shocking we can have a hero like Charlie Kirk die and people still don't understand how polarizing our world is today. You see, if you like Charlie Kirk, if you don't like Charlie Kirk, you should still feel something in this because this is a guy who was never a politician. He was never a extremist, some Nazi or anything like that. He was just a conservative commentator that dedicated his life to ask me anything debates. And when you have someone like this die, I mean, it's shocking to me. Like, he died in an ask me anything debate. Like, I mean, it's everything against our nation to have something like this actually happen.
Indeed, 100%. And there is a problem with the radicalism that we saw beforehand in the build up to the shooting and in the immediate aftermath. The fact that this shooter now, I suppose we have more details, it's been 3 days, so we can speak with more confidence about the details of the case. Having this individual, Tyler Robinson, who, according to friends and family, started getting radicalized around sophomore year, around when he was in 10th grade, and started falling into this rabbit hole on Discord communities. And he made direct references to Discord phrases and things that are within their lingo and jargon, and also gaming jargon. And you could look and analyze what was written on the on the casings, and I'll just read it off actually because I think it's extremely relevant to the reason why he was killed, and we need to look at the consequences of that moving forward. He said, and I quote, three particular things here. One, notice bulges, OWO, what's this? And if you're like familiar with this sort of language, then it's very much going hand in hand with a lot of the online transgender community and furry community and those sort of spheres of the internet. It's very terminally online, and it seems like he was sucked into it as he was growing up, and he was in like a circle jerk where he was just continually encouraged to
Yeah,
go
Ofer,
further and
just
further
to
left.
add on, I'm not sure if you saw, but just recently it was released that
Yeah,
his partner was a transgender person. So it's very clear he had
yeah.
influence, and he himself may have been a part of the community in some sort of way.
Well, at the very least, he was in a relationship with a person who was a man and transitioning to
Yeah,
a woman, and he made reference to that on the casings because notice bulges, like that's a reference to that,
yeah,
obviously. He also said, "Hey, fascist, catch this," and had arrows, so that's a gaming reference. And again, who's the fascist? It's Charlie Kirk. That's who he's referencing there.
yeah,
And catch is like catch the bullets. And then Bella Ciao, he referenced that. It's an anti-fascist song. So again, he was inculcated into this ideology wherein he thought that the opposition, Charlie Kirk, were fascists. And imagine if he thought that Charlie Kirk was a fascist, that would imply that anybody else to the right of him, and of which there are many people, there are millions of people, he also thought that they were fascists or even worse.
yeah,
And if he was willing to kill Kirk, then imagine what he would do to anybody else. That's the problem, that they view a massive cohort of the United States as being irredeemable. And then if they can do a particular violent action to Charlie Kirk, then they can do the same thing extrapolated on to millions of other Americans like you and me. That's the worst part about all of
yeah.
this.
Yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time reading the comments on my interview because it went, there were a lot of comments, a lot of people watched it, and most of them were actually very kind, very touching, but there was about 10% of them that were, half of them were like, oh, don't do this, you'll get shot, and the other half were like, you're next. So when we see this, it means that there's a big group of people who actually believe in what the shooter did and justify it, and that's the concern because when we justify these types of actions, it's just going to happen again and again. And something that Megyn Kelly actually said, I believe it was yesterday, which really touched me, was that you can't take out all of us, and that is true. You can't. And once the liberals realize that they can't do that, I think we are going to really have a change in our political sphere. Also, to add on to this, It struck me when people started comparing this to George Floyd, because George Floyd obviously died in a heinous act. He shouldn't have died, but the consequences in the George Floyd killing was very different than the consequences in this killing. So, Ofer, you can discuss it, but for reference, obviously the cop Derek Chauvin did not deserve to get what he got. He did not have a fair trial, but Ofer, if you want to go into that, you can. Not sure if you do.
Yeah, I saw so many people saying like, "Oh, Charlie Kirk laughed at George Floyd, or he didn't respect his death and the circumstances in which it unfolded according to the official narrative, and so we should treat him with the same energy." The problem is we saw with our own eyes what happened to Charlie Kirk. There's no room for debate about that. Whereas with George Floyd, it's a 9-minute clip. There's no silver bullets. For 6 of the 9 minutes, Derek Chauvin had his knee on the back, not on his neck even. So at the time, it wasn't even lethal.
Yeah,
And then the problem is he was arrested in his car. He was apprehended when he was sitting next to his drug dealer, and there was fentanyl on the ground, and he was already within the stages of an overdose, saying "I can't breathe" before he was even put in a chokehold, like with the neck on
yeah,
top of him. So that's a completely different case. And then the response, like you said, was completely different. In Charlie Kirk's case, all of the conservatives are mourning peacefully. They're holding vigils and peaceful protests. Whereas after the death of a criminal, George Floyd, who conducted an armed home invasion into the home of a mom with a young child. After his death, there were months of riots, 30 people died, $3 billion of property damage across the country. There's zero comparison. And it's actually insulting to the legacy of Charlie Kirk to even like make the comparison.
exactly.
So yeah, it's just
And
insane.
George Floyd was a man who he was a horrible man. I wish
Yeah.
nothing good for him. I don't think he deserved to die, but he was a horrible man. He was a
Yeah.
criminal. He was uh detriment to the society. When you compare a leader like Charlie Kirk, who influenced millions of students and changed the lives of thousands of them, including me, including Ofer, when you compare someone like that to Charlie Kirk, it's offensive and it's hateful. You can't compare a criminal to someone who made more of an impact than probably any other figure in politics in the last 20 years. You just can't do it.
Yeah. And I saw people who took the opportunity to bringing up old clips and try to say he deserves it because they disagree with him on an issue, whether it be abortion or firearms. No, there's nothing that can justify that sort of a heinous murder in front of thousands of people. And then people that tried to immediately latch onto the theory that the shooter was far right. The left tried to gaslight the Twitter algorithm into saying that the shooter, Tyler Robinson, was far right in order to obviously take the heat off of the left because it's become clear by now, based on all the sources, based on all of the publications from the government, that he was left wing. And yeah, the left wing, they have a chance to make good and try to redeem themselves by condemning it, and many politicians have. But then individuals online with large followings, they've been doing something else. They've been trying to just push the blame elsewhere to other groups of people, to other ideologies,
Yeah.
and that's insidious. It's not fair to the other groups of people, and it's insulting to our intelligence.
Yeah, of course. And Ofer, you remember that initially when this happened and we went live, we were watching a interview on MSNBC where an analyst said that this could have been a shooting from one of his supporters in celebration. I mean, when I saw that, I was physically like shock, and I know you were too, but we have people
Yeah.
like this all over the left that think this is funny, think this is some type of joke, think that he got what he deserved. Like, what do you think about that? How can we have these people in our society that think that?
That's why I'm happy about the database that's going to be released, if it hasn't already, of 20,000 people with their publicly available information who made statements about the celebration. And I'm not talking about people that disagreed with him, people that literally they took pleasure in somebody's murder and made disgusting, heinous comments. And so you can look through it. Those people, they deserve to be held accountable and fired, because imagine employing an individual that thinks that way about half the country.
Yeah.
That's going to be extremely dangerous. And that's the way in which you create a culture where people aren't incentivized to say that in public and to think that way at all. We need to actually show that there are consequences for celebrating death. I'm not talking about celebrating our political opinion, which is what was such a concern during 2020 when we had cancel culture that was, ruining civil discourse. But this is totally different. This is about taking glee in the murder of a father and a husband. And so we need to show that there are consequences for it. Obviously, not legal consequences. We're talking about social ostracization.
Yeah, definitely. And also, as you brought up, Charlie Kirk, the the whole entire persona of Charlie Kirk was to discuss and have civil discourse with people who disagree with him. He basically lived to disagree, and that's what I really respect about him, because he didn't hate the people he was debating. He hated the people who refused to debate him. And that just shows how important civil discourse is. But if we don't have civil discourse in our society, then we have nothing. And frankly, I believe that this is a moment that we should all take to think about what Charlie's purpose was. And to me, his purpose was to increase the civil discourse in our country. And unfortunately, someone killing him for doing so is horrible. But we should all take his torch and continue, this civil discourse.
Yeah. And remember the other core tenets of his movement, the fact that he wanted to mobilize young people to be engaged in politics. And we're doing that right now, and many others are doing the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Registering to vote, going to rallies, and recording podcasts, whatever it may be. And he talked about traditional values, fostering conditions for families. He talked about spreading religion. He was a devout Christian, and he spread the gospel a lot. When he would go on college tours, that was very important to him. And he actually did help increase the rates of church attendance, I believe, in the United States. For the first time in years, it's actually starting to go up now, which is amazing. And so that's all a part of his legacy as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I truly think that the importance of religion in his life was something that was very touching. As someone who is not Christian, I'm Jewish. I mean, I find his perspective on religion to be inspiring. And I truly believe that American society cannot develop and become great again until we seek the same faith in religion as we did 50 years ago. And that's what Charlie tried doing, and that's what I hope Gen Z finally actually accomplishes.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about his legacy, I never got to meet him. I never got to interact with him personally, although I've been following him for I think 6 years now. But you have, and I just want to know like how it was on a personal level, just
Yeah.
meeting him. How was he like? What sort of sense of self did you get from
Yeah.
talking to him?
So, yesterday I was actually thinking about that, and I remembered that one of the last things he said to me was that if you want to be successful in this country, then you can be still. And then he said that you're a winner. So he said, I'm a winner. And, when when I remember that, like, it's shocking to me. Like, he himself acknowledged my potential to be successful, and that just shows what type of person he is, because he never did anything for himself. I mean, at these rallies, at these Turning Point USA events, he would be speaking for 15 hours straight, not even take a break, and then after that 15 hours start taking pictures with his fans. It's amazing what he has done. He has never done anything for himself. He doesn't need it. He doesn't need more money. He doesn't need more followers. All he needs for him is to make a real impact. And that's what he did with his life. In his 31 years on this earth, he has created a bigger impact than probably every other person, or 99.99999% of the people who live on this earth. And that's what I really think is wonderful about him. Also personally, he always wanted to see the younger generation succeed. As I think I shared before, Ofer and I were invited by him personally to attend the America Fest 2025, I believe, yeah, in December in Phoenix,
Yeah.
Arizona, which hopefully will still happen in honor of him, to speak there. He didn't have to do that. The reason he did that, though, is because he wanted to give opportunity to the younger generation. That was his entire goal, and it's just noble, like.
It is, yeah. And he was able to like jettison so many like rising voices and give them like a path to get into politics. And that's so important. He was able to dominate social media after all. He was always in people's Instagram feed or TikTok feed. And after you see it a couple of times, you begin to give it a certain amount of gravity. A lot of people, their minds were changed, or they were completely inactive politically, and then they were able to like relate to it and resonate with what he was saying for the first time. So that was so amazing, and you could tell that he was genuine about the cause because he started it right out of high school when he was 18 years old. Started going pitching it to everybody that he met, and everybody that was older than him that was already in politics can attest to the fact that he was extremely motivated. He was an extremely hard worker. Up until his final day, he was a very hard worker, going from campus to campus across the country, debating people, and then going back to his studio to record a 3-hour podcast. So that's the type of person he was, and that's the sort of characteristic that we all have to try to, you know, try to incorporate into our own lives, into our own behavior.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking here, like, he's someone I really want to be like. Like, again, I don't agree with everything he ever said, but I genuinely respect him. And I think that he was one of the hardest working people I've ever met. And he's just an inspiration to me in every possible way. Over though, we have also seen that his support for Israel has been a talking point, especially after his assassination attempt. Well, assassination. Uh, he has been criticized for his point on support for Israel for a long time, but especially now, people are talking about how his support may have led to some sort of assassination. That was one of the first, actually, perspectives of why people thought he was killed. People thought he was killed for his support for Israel. Now, it's not really a talking point anymore. But what are your thoughts in his support for Israel, his love for the country, and how the rest of the far right conservative media reacted to his support?
Well, it came both ways. My initial sort of understanding when I saw it, I immediately thought that this probably has something to do with transgenderism because of the question being asked and because there's a large militant group of people that are motivated to commit acts of violence
Yeah.
because of it. But yeah, other people, like people that are supportive of Israel, thought that it was somebody supportive of Palestine who was really disgusted by his outspoken support for Israel and then killed him. Then on the other side, you had people that theorized that he was starting to like wane in his support for Israel and he was starting to question certain narratives about the country and that's the reason why I was taken out. The problem is like if you're gonna make such a like extreme claim, something that would be so I suppose shocking and such a huge revelation, there has to be a burden of proof that actually is concrete in order to make me like entertain that sort of allegation. So I can't really take it with any sort of seriousness until there's enough proof to back it up. The only proof that we have is the fact that we have the person who turned himself in, and we have all of his motives listed already based on the engravings, based on his family and friends. So that's obviously going to be the likely option. And all the other theories, I feel like they're people that had a preconceived notion and they're just projecting their own beliefs onto a tragedy and trying to wrap it into their already existing worldview to make it palatable to their audience and say that this proves that they're right in yet another case. So I don't agree with it on either end.
Yeah. I agree with you. And over, also, in general, what do you think about his persona as someone who was in the radical right, not someone who was moderate or anything? Do you think it's proper to say that he was radicalized or that he spread extremist ideas? Like, what do you think about that?
Well, when he started off, he said that his goals were free speech and free markets. Like those were his main is a libertarian, or I suppose a right-leaning libertarian. That's the way to describe it. And over time, I think that he's matured politically, so he's become further and further right as time went on. That's true, and he's found some common ground with people on the left, actually, on certain economic issues, on foreign policy, but it was never to a substantial agree. Like, he always still retained those same uh, support, like, valves for laissez-faire economics
Yeah.
and for the free markets. But yeah, he was willing to like question it to a certain degree. So he did become further right on social issues, definitely, as time went on. He became further right on immigration. I know that in 2019 he was much more supportive of immigration than he is today. And same thing on a lot of issues. Probably some of the issues relating to Christian morality, he's always been consistent on, because he's always been a very devout Christian. So I'm talking about abortion and about, I suppose, LGBTQ and those sort of
Yeah.
issues. And then on race relations, he also became more critical of BLM, and more critical of the way in which the Black community is organized and conducts itself. All of which is legitimate. I agree with him on those issues. But yeah, it is true that he became further right, but he was not the furthest right. There's a massive cohort of people, millions of people, that were more right wing than he was, and he was representing them. Now that he's not there, they're going to start to step up and represent themselves, and they're going to become more powerful. There's nothing that can be done about it. The energy is shifting in that direction, and I would say I was also probably further to the right than him on many issues. So now there's going to be a new generation of people that are going to speak out about those issues.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think you agree with me on that.
Yeah. But
It's going to be a
100%.
big phenomenon going forward.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still shocked. I still can't really process it, the events, and I'm sure you can't. But it's just so good to see that people are finally rising up, and maybe there will be a change within the Conservative Party, especially of more younger people coming in, and for Gen Z to finally become a conservative stronghold. That would be my goal. That would be a good thing to come out of
Yeah.
this. But yeah, thank you, Ofer, for filming today, and thank you guys for joining. This again is just such a solemn occasion, but we're lucky that finally we can live up to someone, or we could, have a mentor in the sky for us. So thank you, and
Yeah.
hopefully we can, as a world, move forward through this with only positive impact coming from this. That's what I really hope. So yeah, over anything to say?
Yeah, now our resolve is only hardened, and you could expect that we're gonna continue uploading. And as you can see already, we're increasing the quality, and that's because of our resoluteness. Yeah, we're
Yeah,
very inspired by the past couple of days and what's been going on, and just in general, stay safe, everybody. We love you guys.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, guys. Hopefully we'll increase our following, and yeah, thank you guys for watching.